Okay, please welcome our three drivers, Nick Cassidy from Jaguar TCS Racing, Oliver Rowland from Nissan Formula E team, and Jean-Éric Vergne from DS Penske. We'll start with you, Nick. A tough start to the season for you back in Sao Paulo. How are you feeling, though, coming into this fresh weekend after the festive period here in Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be back in Mexico. It almost feels like round one for me, 2025, first weekend, 0 points, rolling into it. No, but on a serious note, look, great weekend for the team. To be honest, in Sao Paulo, with Mitch getting the win in the end, we weren't the most competitive as we would have liked to be in free practice and qualifying. But in the race, we were okay and we could fight. So, yeah, let's see how the next weekends go. I'm sure they'll be tough. Both these guys beside me, look good in Sao Paulo, and I'm sure they'll be good in the rounds to come.
This is a track where you've had some good results. You were on the podium last year. How confident are you that, as you say, this is kind of the start of your season now, that you can come away with some good points?
Not sure, honestly. Look, I think we're a little bit behind where we want to be with this car. We've got some really cool, exciting things in the pipeline where I think we got to wait to the break after Jeddah to see how that kind of comes on. And I'm probably more hopeful for the second half of the season than I am right now. But it's all okay. I think the team's working really well, working really hard, and we'll see what happens this weekend.
You were the first driver, one of the first, if not the first driver, to deploy the new attack mode last time out, which a lot of people have been talking about with the impressive results you got with that attack mode. Were you surprised with what you felt and what you saw that first time using it in a race situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the same effects for everyone, right? We all went forwards with it. We all went backwards without it. That's just the name of the game, I think. Probably, it is quite extreme. Most teams, I guess, predicted this. This weekend it's a little bit of a topic because the last couple of years the races have been quite processional, and hopefully this weekend, things like that can mix it up.
How far into the season do you think you need for attack mode to have a good understanding of the strategy of where you use it? Obviously, you used it initially quite early last time out.
Yeah, I mean, that might not be the case everywhere, and I don't know if that was the correct strategy in Brazil or not. Probably most teams will converge together, but it is extreme, and my one worry is that the races will be won on a bit of a luck factor at points throughout the year. For sure, you're going to see the same fast guys at the front fighting for the win, but I think there'll be quite a few occasions with this new race format that there's a bit of a luck factor in a victory.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. We'll move on to you, Oliver. You qualified very well last time out, and you led for a lot of the race, but it wasn't quite the result you wanted there. How important is qualifying well here in Mexico, given that we are in the new Gen 3 Evo era, and we have a new, even more powerful start than before?
Yeah, qualifying is always important. I think when you can qualify at the front, you can manage the race a lot better, manage your energy and control your race. I think if you don't qualify at the front, you get into more of a risky part of the race where your race can be ended quite easily with contact or whatever, and something outside of your control. So qualifying is always important. Honestly, heading into Sao Paulo, we're a little bit unsure if we'd improved enough over one lap to be right at the front, but we proved there that we had good pace. And I think coming into this weekend, we need to kind of try and do the same thing again, where we work in a good way over the weekend and try and be in a good place heading into qualifying. And I think I'm quite confident in the races that we have a pretty good package. So it's just about trying to be there or thereabouts on the grid and manage everything from there.
How confident are you after the issues that were present for both yourselves and McLaren last time out in Sao Paulo? How confident are you that those have been addressed? And what's your understanding? Do you feel like you have a full understanding of what the issues were?
Yeah, I think they had a pretty good understanding straight away of what the problem was. Basically, the starts now are obviously four-wheel drive, but there's a point where you have to switch back to two-wheel drive when we didn't have the right translation, let's say, from four to two-wheel drive. And the reason that I didn't get one in the first one was because I lifted before you have to go to two-wheel drive. So the other three got one on the first one, and then I was then getting one on the second one. A little bit frustrating because I think they knew the problem was there during the red flag, but they didn't say anything to me or take any measures to make sure it didn't happen, whereas they did with the other three cars. So yeah, there was a lot to kind of learn from that and make sure that we don't make these silly mistakes in the future.
It's obviously very early in the season. I know drivers don't tend to like to make too many predictions, but what do you feel is achievable for Nissan going forward this weekend onwards in this campaign?
Well, look, I think we had a good year last year. The car was performing well. I'm very happy in the team. I'm in a good place mentally. I think we showed last year that we could score podiums quite regularly, and we would like to think that we've improved the overall car performance this year. But we would be a little bit silly to assume that the others are not going to be extremely competitive as well. So I think you can't expect too much in this championship. I think you have to take kind of race by race, session by session, and just work on yourself. But I think if we can improve on every small detail from last year, there's no reason why we can't be fighting for podiums and race wins quite regularly.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to Jean-Éric Vergne. Jean-Éric, you've also been quite successful here. You've been on the podium multiple times. The unpredictability of Formula E is maybe at its highest ever. What do you need to do as a driver to perfect this weekend around this track?
Well, I think as always, you're going to need a good qualifying, and as they mentioned, when you're in the front, you're able to control the race in a better way. Understanding that also being at that high altitude, the effect of the slipstream is going to be a little bit less. So, the following effect, and with the cars getting a lot more energy than the leaders, may not be so true here. It's still true, but less than any other tracks. And then you need a bit of luck. As I mentioned before, and I think Nick touched base on it, the new attack mode is great. You can clearly overtake. So, from the fan perspective, it's great because a lot more overtaking are happening, a lot more action on track. But for us, the teams and drivers, we feel that there is too much luck involved now with this new attack.
You've obviously driven every generation of Formula E car, and we've seen a lot about the Gen 3 Evo car, but until it was in a race for the first time, you don't know the full capabilities of it. What did you make? Were you surprised by anything in a race situation about the car after testing?
Which subject?
The Gen 3 Evo car, when you raced for the first time in Sao Paulo last time out. Was there anything that surprised you that you maybe weren't expecting in a race situation?
Nothing that we did not expect. The only, the biggest change, you have a bit of aero downforce, aero package. Doesn't change much the driving, neither the race. We got new tires with a little bit more grip. Obviously in Sao Paulo we were expecting more degradation, which didn't come. I think it was the nature of that track. Here it might be different, so we might have more degradation than in Sao Paulo, and a lot more than what we used to see last year. And then of course the biggest change is this attack mode.
You obviously have a new teammate this year, Maximilian Günther. How's your relationship been with him so far?
That's great.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add about how you two get on?
I think
Common interests. What do you discuss while you're waiting for free practice one?
Car setup, strategies.
All the usual things.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Honestly, I didn't know him as a teammate, but he's good. He's working well with the engineers. Very focused in what he does, and I've had teammates with whom I became very close friends. I don't know if that's going to be the case with Max, but so far it all started well, and obviously as a driver you cannot be as lucky as having teammates with whom you become very close friends. I don't think it's the nature of motorsport, so I think in that regard I've been very lucky. So the only thing I expect from a teammate is hard working, that we push the team in the right direction, and especially now in Formula E, having a teammate on track is probably your, on paper it's your worst enemy, but I think on track and understanding the way Formula E is working in the races, I think the teammate should be your biggest help for the perspective of the team championship, and like they've shown with Jaguar in Monaco, what they did is great. They did I'm sure Nick really wanted to win that race, but he did it for the team, and I think that's what you expect as a teammate. One go it goes your way, one time it goes the other way around, and overall the team benefits. So that's what I'm expecting from a teammate. We only had one race, so too early to say, but so far so good.
Time will tell. Thank you very much, Jeff. Does anyone want to ask our drivers a question? We've got time for a few questions. Okay, over here.
Hi, Nick. This generation of Formula E is really fast. What can you tell us about the feeling of driving it, and especially in the attack mode?
I think the three of us share the same opinion. Yes, there's more grip. Yes, the performance of the car windows changed a little bit, and the attack mode is quite extreme. But when we go back to the fact we're all racing drivers, we all have, the same conditions and the same equipment. It kind of almost doesn't, in my opinion, matter on the lap times here or here, as long as we're all close and competitive. That creates the great racing, but it's certainly heading in the right direction.
Okay, anyone else? No, yeah, you can ask a second if you'd like. Yeah, sure.
Some drivers have said that the attack mode now is like Mario Bros. The Star, because it's like really risk. Is this true, or which is your feeling?
Ollie can answer that one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What was your question?
Some drivers. Hey. Some drivers said that the attack mode is like similar to the Mario Bros. Attack. Is this true, or is only like a joke?
Especially Oliver has some bananas, that he's throwing.
Yeah, I mean.
Sometimes. Or the turtle, the red turtle, he's got that.
I guess in some respects you gain quite a lot of performance from it, but yeah, I've never heard it really related to that.
And I'm sorry, I have something to add actually about the attack mode. I thought some journalists will ask the question, but maybe some of them are asleep. When I mentioned about the randomness of the attack mode, I was expecting one of you guys to ask me, okay, so what should we do? So then I guess I have to say, but with what happened to me and some of the drivers, last year the attack mode was kind of useless thing to have, so you wanted to get rid of it as soon as possible, and it was the same for everybody. You were not getting a lot of time, you were not getting a lot of positions, it was very difficult to pass. Now it's a complete new game. You actually do gain a lot of time and a lot of position in attack. So now when you are in a situation where you activate your attack and something out of your control, like a car is crashing right after, or there is some elements on the track that requires a full course yellow or a safety car or a red flag. Let's say you're in your 6-minute attack zone and at 30 seconds after you have a full course yellow, you basically lose 5 minutes out of goodness of this attack mode, which is a massive, massive loss compared to anybody else that had their full attack mode. So if there was one change that should be done is that, let's say you are in your first minute and then you have a full course yellow for the 5 minutes remaining of your attack, then I think it would be fair that the driver that got penalized by that could have the possibility of still use the remaining attack that was not used during full course yellow.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying. Just very quickly to any of you three, the turn one is different. Thoughts on that change that we've got this year?
Yeah, a little bit slower, probably a bit less exciting to drive in qualifying, and could lead to a bit of a mess in the race, maybe if there's a bit of packing up there. It's hard to say before we get on track, but I wouldn't say there's too much coming from it that's making me think it's going to be better, let's say.
Okay, another reason to qualify well, though.
Yeah, I don't think it'll change overtaking too much. I think you should still, with four-wheel drive, be able to get alongside before turn one. The problem is if it starts to, we see with the racing gets messy when when the corners are slow and a bit of packing up, and it could be the case where it's quite narrow on the exit, that if you end up with a few cars kind of trying to funnel into the middle of the corner, it could get a bit messy.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. The driver's pen will be available outside straight after. Thank you.